A plane takes off from Chicago Airport on a clear spring day. As the wheels leave the runway, it loses power from one of its engines. Suddenly, it rolls to the left. Seconds later, the aircraft hits the ground and disintegrates, smashing into a trailer park. 273 people are dead. Now, a team of investigators must find out exactly what went wrong in America's most catastrophic air accident.
A 747 cargo flight takes off from Amsterdam. It climbs over the densely populated city. Suddenly, a powerful jolt rocks the aircraft. 8 minutes later, the jumbo plows into a crowded apartment block. How did a routine flight turn into Holland's worst air crash? Now, using advanced computer simulations, we reveal what really downed El Al Flight 1862. Disasters don't just happen. They're a chain of critical events.
Unravel the clues and count down those final seconds from disaster. North America, Illinois, Chicago. America's third biggest city, with the busiest airport in the world. Every minute, a plane lands or takes off from O'Hare International Airport. More than 2,000 flights a day. May 25th, 1979, 12 noon. On its final approach to O'Hare is an American Airlines DC-10, flying in from Phoenix, Arizona. At the controls is 53-year-old Captain Walter Lux. Walter has worked for American Airlines for 29 years. It's 1:30 p.m. and Walter prepares to go off duty when a fellow pilot approaches him. The colleague has to attend a family function and asks Walter whether he'll swap shifts and take flight 191 to Los Angeles that afternoon. Walter has to think hard. It's the Friday before Memorial Day holiday weekend, and Walter is looking forward to the break. The request will mean Walter changing his plans, but he also knows he can call for a return favor in the future.
Okay, I'll see you soon. Back we go again, huh?
Already, passengers are checking in for Flight 191. 21-year-olds Deborah Ann Maruzzi and Doreen Malik are going on the holiday of a lifetime to Hawaii. Debbie's boyfriend, Ray DeVito, sees them off.
Hi now.
See ya. I'm thinking what a great day it was and just how wonderful it is to be able to just hop in a plane and fly to Hawaii. They were going to land in LA and then take off in LA off to Hawaii. I was just caught up in their excitement as well.
At 2 p.m., Captain Walter Lux hooks up with his co-pilot, Captain James Dillard, another experienced pilot. They'll be flying a DC-10 to Los Angeles. Flight 191 is one of the oldest DC-10s in service. It's flown nearly 20,000 hours since 1972. But the plane recently had a major service. It was given the all clear. At 3:01 p.m., 191 pauses for an incoming plane.
3-2 right, position and hold.
All right.
A minute later, it's cleared for takeoff.
0, cleared for takeoff. American 191, on our way.
49-year-old James Dillard will pilot the plane at takeoff and landing. Within 50 seconds, the 170-ton DC-10 reaches takeoff speed.
Rotate.
But just as co-pilot Dillard eases the plane's nose into the sky, he notices he's lost power from engine 1 on the left wing.
Damn.
The plane veers to the left, but Dillard corrects it with the rudder.
Come on!
He knows the DC-10 can fly with just 2 of its 3 engines and has been trained to deal with exactly this scenario. To reduce the load, On the two remaining engines, Dillard follows AA guidelines and slows the plane to the minimum climbing speed. V2, 283 kilometers per hour. The pilots know the emergency is far from over, but they have the plane climbing evenly again, though slightly slower than normal. Suddenly, the plane starts to roll to the left. Ray DeVito watches in horror from the observation deck.
There are two fireballs, like flak from a World War II movie. Two big bangs with a red flash fire, and then it begins to roll over.
Just beyond the airport's runway are a trailer park and the Chicago Police Canine Training Facility. Sergeant Ken Berger and his colleagues see the plane in trouble.
I can hear a plane approaching. The engine is backfiring. It's sputtering.
The DC-10 heads directly for the trailer park, home to hundreds of people. Pilots Lux and Dillard fight to level the aircraft, but the plane does not respond. The nose drops below the horizon. Flight 191 smashes into the ground just short of the trailer park.
It sends a fireball 100 feet in the air, thick black smoke, and I can feel the heat.
The twisted wreckage of 191 lies scattered for hundreds of meters. Debris has smashed into the trailer park, destroying 5 homes. 2 more people are dead. Ray DeVito has run 5 kilometers to reach the crash site.
When I arrive at the crash site, I see pieces of airplane strewn about. I assumed I'm not at the proper site because there's not enough pieces of plane or things here for me to recognize. I slowly allowed myself to accept the fact that nobody survived this accident.
In Phoenix, Arizona, the news alerts Michael Lux, son of pilot Walter Lux. When he hears the flight was out of Chicago, he's relieved.
I knew my father had flown the trip from Phoenix to Chicago, so I thought, oh, thank God he flew that trip home, so it's not him.
As soon as Michael Lux arrives at his home in Phoenix, his world falls to pieces.
I walk in and see one of my best friends. He just has this look that I've never seen, and I was startled, and then I realized our house is full of people, and, you know, where's my mom? What's going on? And it was on the television in the other room that my dad was the captain.
Lord Jesus Christ, Savior of the world, we recommend your servants whom we find here in this distressful incident.
American Airlines Flight 191 ranks as the worst single-plane accident in U.S. history. In total, 273 people died. But what caused the pilots of the DC-10 to lose control of their plane so quickly? Now, by going deep into the official investigation, we can reveal the calamitous chain of events that led to the crash of 191. 11 minutes after the disaster, the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, receives a call. Within the hour, a GO team of 15 expert investigators is on its way to Chicago. Pivotal to the investigation will be the expertise of this man, Michael Marks. In 1979, Marks is senior metallurgist at the NTSB. He will unlock the mystery of why 191 fell out of the sky just 30 seconds after takeoff.
You wouldn't have thought that that could ever happen on an airplane. So it is a shock. It's a shock to you and I and everybody in the world that this type of thing happened.
The task is epic. Evidence is scattered over a square kilometer. But one thing is immediately clear. Halfway down the runway, they find the remains of Engine 1. It must have detached from the wing during takeoff. The question is, why? The investigators hope to find the answer among the debris. While the search continues, the team turns to eyewitnesses, and their luck changes. The testimonies of 60 people point to one stunning moment. During takeoff, they all saw Engine 1 swing forward, then flip up and over the top of the wing. It's a shocking revelation that points towards structural failure. If true, it could potentially affect every DC-10 in the air. This would be the airline industry's worst nightmare. A team of experts from the National Transportation Safety Board investigates America's worst single-plane accident. They know that Flight 191 lost an engine at takeoff. But the loss of one of the DC-10's 3 engines should not be sufficient to bring it down. Yet the plane crashed just 31 seconds later. The team focus their inquiry on why the engine fell off. The finger of suspicion points directly at the structure that holds the engine to the wing. The DC-10 has 3 engines, each weighing more than 5 tons. One is on the tail, the other 2 hang from the wings, each connected by the pylon. A pylon attaches to the wing at 3 points, 2 at the front, 1 at the rear. The team aim to recover every piece of the structure that attached Engine 1 to the left wing. They comb the debris field. With help from local police, the parts are taken to a hangar at O'Hare Airport. There, NTSB experts painstakingly piece together and minutely examine every fragment. Michael Marks, senior metallurgist at the NTSB, soon discovers a key piece of the pylon assembly, the flange. Close inspection reveals it's damaged. Damage that looks as if it was caused before the crash.
There was something that was mysterious about it. I did not understand it, but I knew that there was something that was wrong and needed to be investigated more in depth.
Marks takes the part back to his labs in Washington, D.C. The flange has a 33-centimeter crack. Looking at it, Marks's expert eye can decipher a sequence of events. The face of the crack shows signs of fatigue. Like tree rings, it grows line by line, radiating outwards over a period of time. This cannot have been caused in the impact of the crash, and must have happened before. For fatigue to start, something must have weakened the flange. Marks sees evidence of a massive overload, shown by the clean face of a shear. Though he can't say what caused the overload, he knows that it came before the fatigue, and therefore before the crash. Marks and the team decide to check 191's service history. They discover that American Airlines serviced the plane just 8 weeks before its fatal flight.
Whenever you have something happen to an airplane where there's been maintenance in the past, you start looking at what was accomplished during that maintenance operation.
Bud Lehner, NTSB head of engineering, visits American Airlines maintenance facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He discovers serious irregularities with the way AA carries out the work. In addition to the routine service, American Airlines replaces the bearings that attach the pylons to the wing. To complete the modification, the engine and pylon must be removed from the wing. The plane's manufacturer, McDonnell Douglas, advised the engine to be detached before the pylon is taken off. But American airline engineers have developed a shortcut of removing the engine and pylon as one whole unit, using nothing more sophisticated than a forklift truck.
The airlines, of course, are interested in doing it the quickest and cheapest way possible.
The team also discover that the modification to 191 did not run smoothly. Engineers started to disconnect the engine and pylon from 191's wing, but changed shift at a crucial moment in the procedure. During the handover, the engine and pylon were left supported by the forklift truck. When work resumed, the pylon was jammed against the wing mounts. The forklift was not carrying the load evenly and had to be repositioned before the pylon could be released. Bud Lehner calls Michael Marks at the NTSB labs with the news.
It just like a light bulb went off, and it just all came to me. And so I said, Bud, not only do I think it could have been caused by something striking it, I can prove it.
The flange is on a bulkhead, bolted to a clevis. When the bolt is removed to detach the pylon, the flange can move up against the clevis. Marks looks at the flange again. It's not just cracked, it's also bent, exactly matching the curve of the clevis. Since the flange can only come into contact with the clevis when the bolt is removed, the crack must have been caused during the removal of the engine and pylon for maintenance. Finally, Marks knows why the engine broke away from the wing. Could other airlines follow the same dangerous shortcuts? The Federal Aviation Administration orders an immediate inspection of all U.S.-operated DC-10s.
I have no choice but to ground all U.S. DC-10s immediately.
Grounding the entire fleet is unprecedented and brings the industry close to meltdown. Inspectors discover that another 4 American Airlines planes have similar damage. Other airlines have also been using the same shortcut. In total, 10 DC-10s are damaged by the procedure. It's a shocking indictment of the American aviation industry. But Marks is aware that DC-10s are able to fly with just 2 engines.
Airplanes don't crash just because an engine comes off. We've had other engines that have come off and flown away and landed, and nobody gets hurt. There had to be other reasons why this particular accident happened.
Back in Chicago, the NTSB team are making headway. They find a 1-meter piece of the left wing on the runway, where the engine fell off. The piece has been ripped away from the rest of the wing. It's a significant clue. This part of the wing carries the hydraulic controls for the slats, which are vital for takeoff. The investigators begin to understand what happened. The engine pylon broke away at the weakened flange. The engine swung round the front mount, up and over the wing, ripping out 1 meter of the leading edge, including the hydraulic control. This is crucial information. At takeoff, the slats on the leading edge extend to increase lift. Without the hydraulic system to hold them in place, wind pressure causes the outboard slats to retract. This reduces lift on the left wing, and the plane rolls to the left. But Dillard should still have been able to fly the plane.
He was flying the airplane. He was literally flying it out after the engine came off, after the slats came back.
Did Dillard deviate from the emergency procedure? The flight data recorder shows that when he lost engine 1, Dillard reduces speed to V2, 283 kilometers per hour, exactly as trained. Yet still, the plane crashed. Marks and the investigation team start to question whether the emergency procedures are at fault. Calculating the exact effect on the aerodynamics, the team recreate 191's flight in a simulator. 70 takeoffs are simulated with exactly the same catastrophic loss of engine and slat retraction. 13 pilots try to correct the plane following the emergency instructions. Not one manages to save the aircraft. It's a shocking revelation. The training manual is wrong. The investigators conclude that reducing speed when the slats are retracted is the worst thing a pilot can do. It guarantees that the plane will stall in mid-air. This is exactly what happened to Flight 191. Now, by rewinding the events of that fateful day, and by following the evidence uncovered during the investigation, we can finally reveal how Flight 191 crashed. 5 minutes to disaster. 191 taxis to runway 32R at Chicago O'Hare Airport, ready for takeoff.
American 191 on our way.
The fatal flaw that will down the flight starts 8 weeks earlier, when the DC-10 undergoes maintenance. As the engine and bulkhead are detached, a flange cracks. Every time the DC-10 takes off and lands over the next 8 weeks, the crack gets worse. 1 minute and 19 seconds to disaster. 191 starts its takeoff roll. During the roll, the cracked flange on the pylon fails. As the nose lifts for takeoff, the pylon rips away from the forward mount, up and over the left wing, taking 1 meter of the leading edge with it. This breaches the hydraulic systems and cuts off the electrical supply to vital cockpit instruments. 32 seconds to disaster.
Damn.
The pilots know that they have lost power from engine 1, but they can't see that they have lost the engine itself and part of the wing. Following emergency procedures, co-pilot Dillard slows to 283 kilometers per hour. The plane continues to climb steadily to 90 meters. Then, as the last of the hydraulic fluid drains away, the outboard slats are forced to retract, causing the plane to lose lift. 10 seconds to disaster. The plane rolls dramatically to the left. The pilots fight to correct this, but the aircraft continues to roll until its wings are past the vertical and the nose pitches below the horizon. At 4 minutes past 3, 191's left wingtip hits the ground and the aircraft explodes. Nobody on the plane survives. 273 people are dead. The catastrophe is still America's worst single-plane accident.
Trying to speed the maintenance process up and save a couple dollars has cost my dad and 272 other people their lives in a horrific airplane disaster.
After the investigation, the NTSB recommends fundamental improvements in the aviation industry. The US government orders a change in maintenance procedures, and pilots are no longer required to reduce speed to V2 after the loss of an engine. But nothing will bring back the victims of Flight 191. The US government fines American Airlines just $500,000 for improper maintenance procedures. McDonnell Douglas shares fall more than 20% after the crash of 191. Eventually, the company is taken over by its rival.
Europe. Holland. Amsterdam. 15 kilometers from the city center. Schiphol, one of the world's busiest airports. Sunday, October 4th, 1992, 2:40 p.m. An aircraft enthusiast takes this footage of an Israeli El Al 747 cargo plane arriving from New York. The jumbo will load up and refuel before flying to Tel Aviv in Israel as flight El Al 1862. 5:20 p.m. Flight 1862 has passed security checks. Now the crew arrive for their pre-flight inspection. 59-year-old Captain Yitzhak Fuchs is in command. Like many El Al pilots, Fuchs is a combat-hardened veteran of the Israeli Air Force. He's got 25,000 pilot hours under his belt. All the flight paths in and out of Schiphol pass over densely populated areas of Amsterdam. Under one of them lies the Belmer suburb, 13 kilometers to the east. At its heart, the sprawling Groeneveen apartment block. It's home to almost 2,000 people. Among them, Marlene Treidemann, a nurse, and Guillermo, her son.
Every day planes would come over. You got used to that after a while.
Marlene and her husband Stanley are originally from Suriname, a former Dutch colony in South America. Graciela, their 14-year-old daughter, is a popular girl who's doing well at school. "6 p.m. On runway 1 at Schiphol, Captain Fuchs powers up the 747's 4 Pratt & Whitney engines.
LL 1862, ready for taxi.
He hands over to his young co-pilot, Arnon Ohad, to give him more flying experience on the 747. 6 minutes after takeoff, LL 1862 heads east over Amsterdam suburbs.
We're passing 4300.
6:27 p.m. and 30 seconds. Suddenly, a terrifying jolt rocks the plane. It starts to lose altitude and rolls violently to the right.
It keeps rolling.
Veteran pilot Captain Fuchs grabs the controls.
I've got up.
He battles to stabilize the jumbo. If he fails, the aircraft will spiral out of control.
LL 1862, Mayday, Mayday, we have an emergency.
After 30 seconds, Captain Fuchs manages to wrestle the jumbo back to steady flight.
Check hydraulic pressure.
Seconds later, another crisis. The instruments reveal that both engines on the right wing are out of action. Captain Fuchs must get back to Schiphol for an emergency landing. Fast. Air traffic control clears the jumbo for the journey back to Schiphol. The return route to runway 27 will take the jumbo over the Belmer suburb where the Treidemann family lives. Marlene and Stanley decide to visit a friend nearby. They tell their children, Guillermo and Graciela, they'll be back soon. "6:33 p.m. and 35 seconds.
Descent to 2,000 feet.
Air traffic controller, Henk ter Brakke, clears the stricken jumbo to land at runway 27.
13 miles to go to Detachments.
At this moment, as Captain Fuchs lifts the nose to slow the jumbo for landing, the roll to the right returns. He jams the rudder further to the left, but now the plane barely responds. Co-pilot Ohad alerts Schiphol.
Controlling problem. Controlling problem as well.
Suddenly, the roll accelerates to an extreme 90-degree angle, and the jumbo spirals towards the Belmer.
Raise the flap. Get the gear down.
Going down. Going down.
Sink rate. Full up.
6:35 p.m. and 42 seconds. LL 1862 smashes into the 6th floor of the 11-story apartment block. Burning aviation fuel rains down onto dozens of apartments. The sound of the crash came from the direction of Marlene and Stanley's home, where they left their children just minutes ago. The couple race back, gripped by fear. Suddenly, through the trees, they see a towering wall of flame. Stanley freezes, but Marlene runs to the burning apartment block. She finds a staircase and races to the 5th floor.
I was only thinking, I need to find my children. I need to find my children.
But the exact point where her home used to be, she's facing an abyss. A burning hole. The terrible truth starts to sink in.
At that moment, I felt as if I was dead myself. I felt as if I had died inside.
reveals a gaping hole in the building. The crash destroys 31 apartments on 11 floors. The official death toll is 43, including Captain Fuchs and his crew. The Netherlands Aviation Safety Board quickly mobilizes 8 investigators. Frans Earhart is a senior member of the team.
Je hoopt het van niet. You hope it'll never happen, but then it does happen. A large plane in the middle of a residential area with many victims.
What triggered Holland's worst air disaster? And why did the 747 fly steadily for 8 minutes after the Mayday, only to nosedive without warning into a crowded apartment block? Now, by rewinding the events of that fateful day, and by going deep into the investigation, we can reveal what really happened to LL 1862.
In that case, heading 360 the heading.
Earhart checks recordings from air traffic control at Schiphol. They reveal that co-pilot O'Hard reported losing power in both engines on the right wing.
Number 3 and number 4 engine inoperative.
Investigators know that 2 engines failing at the same time is almost unheard of. The team begins to suspect a more sinister reason for the loss of the Israeli jet.
Van het begin af vanuit gegaan. We thought from the beginning LL was possibly targeted by terrorists. Terroristische actie was getroffen.
The investigators fear that Flight 1862 was downed by a terrorist bomb or even a ground-to-air missile. To see if the terrorism theory stands up, investigators need to find the jumbo's engines and its black boxes, which record technical flight data and cockpit conversations. But it's a daunting task. Even if they survive the crash and the 1100 degrees Celsius inferno, they now lie buried under a mountain of rubble. Investigators have no concrete leads to explain why LL 1862 crashed into an apartment block in Amsterdam. Then, Jan Kaspers, a detective with the Amsterdam police, tells them on the evening of the disaster, he and an old friend were enjoying a yacht trip on Gooimeer Lake, 10 kilometers east of Amsterdam. Their boat was moored right beneath LL 1862's flight path from Schiphol Airport. At 6:27 p.m., they're preparing dinner. Suddenly, they hear a loud bang.
What was that? Gas explosion.
Kaspers rushes onto the deck. In the sky, he sees a 747. Beneath it, 2 objects are falling away.
At first, I thought they were parachutes. And just as they were above the treetops, I realized that they might be airplane engines.
Air crash investigator Frans Earhart immediately orders a team of divers to search Gooimeer Lake. It's now clear to investigators that the 2 right-hand engines didn't simply fail.
Number 3 and number 4 engine inoperative.
They sheared off completely. Now there's a new mystery facing the team. What could rip 2 5-ton engines off a 747 simultaneously? The case for a terrorist ground-to-air missile or bomb now looks compelling. To prove this theory, investigators must recover the engines from the bottom of Gooimeer Lake and examine them for clues. They know it's a huge challenge. The lake covers 26 square kilometers. But against all the odds, after just a few hours of searching, a diver gets a lucky break. He spots a massive chunk of aircraft debris. The team quickly identifies it as the outer engine from the 747's right wing. And there's another key find on land near the lake. Pieces from a 10-meter stretch of the same wing's leading edge. Scientists swab the engine and the chunks of wing for traces of the chemicals used in explosives. The analysis draws a complete blank. Investigators can find no evidence of an explosion, nor any other clue to why the engine broke away. Now the investigators' only chance to solve the mystery is to find the 747's inner engine in the hope that it holds the key, or to locate one of the plane's black box flight recorders at the crash site. To make things worse, there's another setback. Within 24 hours of the crash, the mayor of Amsterdam ordered diggers and bulldozers to clear the site. He's under huge public pressure to recover bodies as quickly as possible. Earhart and his team are powerless. Their only option is to follow the debris to its new home, an Amsterdam garbage dump. It seems a hopeless task. Then, after 3 days, Earhart is in his Amsterdam office when he gets a call. It's good news. One of his team has found the 747's flight data recorder. This black box records all the aircraft's critical technical data. It could prove the breakthrough they so desperately need. But when they open it, the tape inside is broken in 4 places. And data from the plane's critical final 2.5 minutes is indecipherable. They send the recorder to specialists in Washington, D.C. in the USA. 11 days after the crash, the investigation team is at rock bottom. But just as investigators are beginning to despair, they hit the jackpot. A diver finds the inner engine, half buried by mud. It's still attached to the mounting that fixed it to the wing. Earhart and the team are excited but cautious. When they run the battery of tests for explosives on this engine, once again, they find nothing. Investigators reach a turning point. They rule out a terrorist attack as the cause of the disaster. In fact, they can find nothing wrong with the engine itself. But when they examine its cowling, the outer casing, they quickly spot a dent, and on it, smears of black paint. They send the paint for analysis. But they must still find out why the inner engine broke away in the first place. Since the engine was still fixed to its mounting, the separation must have occurred at the point where it was fixed to the wing. 4 fittings hold the engines to the wing. At the heart of each is a 14-centimeter long hollow steel bolt called a fuse pin. The fuse pins are strong enough to take the load of a 5-ton jet engine at full thrust. But in some circumstances, they're actually designed to fail. Investigators know that all 747s have a damage limitation system. When vibrations reach a critical point, the fuse pins are engineered to snap, allowing the engine to fall away harmlessly. But there's no sign that the inner engine suffered a crisis. The team examines the mounting that fixed the inner engine to the wing. They focus on what's left of the 2 central fittings which carry the bulk of the load. The fuse pins they held are both missing. But on one fitting, investigators spot something intriguing. The top of the lug that held the fuse pin has snapped off. The stress markings are not typical of a violent impact. They reveal that the lug snapped because it was overloaded. They realize this can only have happened if the fuse pin inside broke at one end. Earhart believes that a partial failure can only mean one thing: metal fatigue in the fuse pin. To prove their theory, investigators will have to find the missing fuse pin from the other central fitting. On day 3, one of the team spots a piece of metal half hidden by garbage. It's part of the missing central fitting from the inner engine. And against all the odds, there's a chunk of fuse pin still inside. Investigators begin scanning the fragment under an electron microscope as soon as it arrives from the rubbish dump. In the wall of the fuse pin, there's a crack 4 millimeters deep. The patterns around the fault show all the classic signs of metal fatigue. It's the breakthrough the team have worked so hard to reach. Now, they have indisputable evidence that the other central fuse pin was also defective. With every flight, the microscopic cracks in the inner engine's fuse pins got bigger and bigger. On October 4th, 1992, they reached a critical point. At 6,500 feet, with the engine at full thrust, the faulty fuse pins fail. But the investigation team still has to explain why the 747's outer engine came off as well. Then they receive the test results on paint smears found on the inner engine's cowling. The smears are an exact match for the paint used on the central fan blade spinner of the outer engine. They realize there's only one possible explanation. The inner engine was at full thrust as the plane climbs. So when it shears off, it doesn't fall harmlessly away. It shoots forward. A split second later, it falls back, and by sheer chance, strikes the outer engine, smashing it off the wing. The impact also rips away a 10-meter stretch of the wing's leading edge. Investigators now know that a freak accident caused 2 engines to fall off Flight 1862. But a 747 should be perfectly capable of flying on 2 engines. So what made Flight 1862 suddenly nosedive just minutes from an emergency landing at Schiphol Airport?
Raise the flap! Get the gear down!
Then, 18 days after the crash, the team gets some good news. Experts in the USA have retrieved the information from the damaged flight data recorder. The flight data analysis finally reveals why LL-1862 nosedived without warning after pilots kept the jet airborne for a full 8 minutes. 8 minutes to disaster. Defective fuse pins holding the inner engine to the wing snap, causing the plane to lose not 1, but 2 engines. This catastrophe also damages a 10-meter stretch of the wing's leading edge, causing a major disruption of airflow over it. This reduces lift on the right-hand side and makes the 747 roll to the right.
It keeps rolling.
Captain Fuchs has also lost 2 hydraulic systems, controlling key anti-roll devices. The flight data analysis reveals that his current airspeed of 280 knots is the key. It's just high enough to get sufficient lift out of the right wing to keep them aloft. 39 seconds to go. Now Captain Fuchs lifts the jumbo's nose to slow the plane down for landing. The flight data reveals that this change in angle worsens the disruption in airflow over the mangled right wing. The result is a further loss of lift on this side of the plane, and it starts to roll again. 30 seconds to disaster. As the roll and loss of lift reach a critical point, LL-1862 nosedives from 2,500 feet. Microscopic faults in 2 14-centimeter long components lead to the death of 43 people. Rescue workers found the bodies of 16-year-old Guillermo and 14-year-old Graciela the morning after the crash, just meters from where their home once stood. Nearby is a permanent memorial to the victims. Boeing goes on to strengthen all 747 engine-to-wing attachments, including fuse pins. It also rolls out a more stringent inspection regime with new ultrasound testing to detect metal fatigue. The changes brought about by the Schiphol crash make every 747 flying today a safer aircraft.